We don't want to do the same thing forever. People like me who are creatives and artists and sort of passionate people, when you're trying to monetize that, you end up getting those money jobs. And sometimes we find ourselves in those money jobs for like way longer than we thought. And all of a sudden, now that's what you do. And you wake up one day and you go, wait, I'm no longer doing that thing that I got this money job to fund or to support. So there's so many things that happen in our lives where we come to a place where we go, I've plateaued, or what I'm doing isn't working anymore, or I'm not lit up anymore, or this isn't, and it's not a reinvention. It's like, how do you want to evolve? Because that is what you're designed to do.
These 3 elements of thought leadership: making bold assertions, evaluating the status quo and what's being talked about and where it's lacking, and then presenting a new paradigm, is exactly what Stacey Brass Russell, who is our special guest today here on the show, does. What we're going to get into today is really important. And it's important because I heard this from Brian Miller, a wonderful framework for thought leadership. I was listening to a podcast interview that he did with Chris Do, who I adore. If you don't know Chris and you don't know Brian, you just certainly check them out. And he talked about Brian's framework for what thought leaders must do is going to set up perfectly our conversation today with Stacey, because he says the thought leaders must do 3 things. And I want everyone to think about this because this is important for all of us. Number 1, we must make assertions. So we need to not be wishy-washy and, sort of do very lukewarm. I think maybe possibly it's like definitively, right? Come out boldly in your statements of what you believe and what you think, right? Thought leadership, we're leading our own thoughts, we're leading the thoughts of others. The second thing that we must do is judge. Now, this was very uncomfortable because I don't like that word. And he's not talking about judging other people, okay? He's talking about we must judge what's going on in our industries and ideas and things that are being put out in the world, so that we can explain maybe where there are holes or gaps, or the people that you're here to serve aren't being given what they need given the status quo. Okay, so we're evaluating. My word, because I'm softer, more feminine would be evaluate, right? That we need to boldly assert what we believe, what we've discovered in our thought leadership. We need to, Brian's word, judge. I'm going to say evaluate, not people, the ideas and the industry standards and the status quo that's going on in the world. And number 3, we must present a new paradigm. Okay, so this is just a framework that I really enjoyed hearing about over the weekend, that thought leaders, we need to run this through the content that we create, the talks that we give, the books that we write, the YouTube videos that we film. Are we truly embodying, according to Brian's definition, thought leadership from the standpoint that we are making bold assertions, that we are, I'm going to say, evaluating our industries, the status quo, how things are being done, and then that we are offering a new paradigm, a paradigm that we think will help people more, that will change the world in better ways. So I'm going to have us all be thinking about this, okay? We're going to be thinking about it because this is an exciting week. We have the kickoff of the Monetize Your Book Club, very first session this Wednesday, 12 to 1 Eastern time. So if you're not already a member, then we'll put the link in all the show notes and everything. Make sure that you get in on that so that you understand how to take your thought leadership and make sure you have a financial ROI on that thought leadership that you spend all of your time and resources and love and soul putting together, right? So it's really super important. But these 3 elements of thought leadership, making bold assertions, evaluating the status quo and what's being talked about and where it's lacking, and then presenting a new paradigm, is exactly what Stacey Brass Russell, who is our special guest today here on the show, does. So I just loved, Stacey, that I heard that framework. And I'm like, that's exactly what you and I talked about. Stacey, you're on a mission. I'm going to tell everyone a little bit about you, and you can share in your own words who you are, what you do. But you're doing this in our conversation today because what we're going to get into, everyone, so get excited, is all this talk about reinvention. But is that really the right term? And is that really what's needed? That's what Stacey's going to bring to us today in her thought leadership. So if you don't know Stacey Brass Russell, she has an incredible podcast, and that we'll put the link to a podcast of her own. So it's fun. Stacey, you get to be interviewed today instead of
Yes.
normally you're hosting your podcast, your academy. You coach, you're a business strategist, you're a messaging expert. You help people get high converting sales when they're doing live events and webinars. You are really in the absolute, space of helping people, especially who sell transformation, be able to articulate what they do, take their passion, turn it into a profitable, passionate business that actually creates good for others and makes them money. And you help them figure out how to talk about what they do and turn what they love into what they do, and then sell that thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so everybody give a warm welcome, those of you in the live studio audience, to Stacey Brass Russell.
Hi, thank you. Well, I don't think I need to say anything else about what I do. You
I
said it
love it. I
perfectly.
love it. Exactly. Well, because we want to get into it. We want to really get into today what we're doing. Well, of course, everybody, you can find out in the show notes how to look at Stacey's Academy, find her podcast, listen to what she has to say. But Stacey, you're on a mission, and we're both got really passionate about this idea of everyone's talking transformation and talking reinvention, but what's really going on here? So take it, just go for it. Give us some context of what's gotten you kind of fired up.
Yeah, well, it's funny. As you were going through the three-step,
Mhm.
thought leader framework that you heard Brian say, I was like, oh my goodness, I hope I fit in there.
You
But I was like,
do.
I do. And what came through for me was, in the part two, about judging, which again, I don't love that word either, but we know what it means. What I have been sort of like noticing, as you said, and talking about more lately was just there is, with obviously we've seen a shift in the market, and you've heard so many people talking about using this term trust recession, and recognizing that sort of like post the pandemic-y boom where it felt like people were investing, they were investing a lot in personal growth and development, as well as in like following their passion, starting businesses. Everybody decided they could like become a course creator and a consultant and create offers, and they were investing in how to do that, right? And how to have the help to do that. And then we also know that, like, in the last, I mean, AI is not new, but like as far as it becoming something so pervasive and sort of like bleeding into our everyday, existence, there's like a lot of fear, and there's a lot of anxiety around AI, and a lot of people worrying that like now the thing they thought they were going to do, the kind of business they were going to have, is going to be obsolete because of AI. So there's all of this stuff going on, and what it's causing is people thinking that they have to like reinvent themselves completely, or they have to their offer, the things that they thought they were going to do, they have to do something totally different, and start over. And whenever people think about that, I think the words that come up for them are back to the drawing board, start over. And these things feel like, I mean, they're heavy. It's not a good feeling to think that you have to reinvent yourself or to like start over. But what I've been talking about for more than just the last year or 2 years is actually evolution, because I believe that human beings are not created to do one thing and stay the same. And that if that one thing stops working, or is no longer what lights you up, or is no longer the thing that's kind of catching on, whatever it is, that doesn't mean that now you failed, or that it's all over, or that, you're ruined, or that you have to start over. It just means that like the universe is nudging you to say, hey, you have to now tap into your genius and your creative energy, and all of what has led you to this moment in time, and now figure out how you want to move that forward into this next iteration, this next version of your life, of you. We don't want to do the same thing forever. And we know this. People, I mean, I hate to say it, but people get into relationships that at some point they don't want to be in anymore, or people get jobs that they don't want to be in anymore, or people follow a career path that they then realize they don't want to be in anymore, or people like me who are creatives and artists and sort of passionate people, when you're trying to monetize that, you end up getting those money jobs, right? What I call a money job. And sometimes we find ourselves in those money jobs for like way longer than we thought. And all of a sudden, now that's what you do. And you wake up one day and you go, wait, I'm no longer doing that thing that I got this money job to fund or to support. So there's so many things that happen in our lives where we come to a place where we go, I've plateaued, or what I'm doing isn't working anymore, or I'm not lit up anymore, or this isn't, you know, and it's not a reinvention. It's like, how do you want to evolve? Because that is what you're designed to do. And you are a creative being. So, what the number two about like, where do you see gaps or holes, or what are people saying? Or, well, that's my assertion, right? And what I see in the gaps or the holes that are happening in my industry are that the old fashioned models of how people get supported in figuring out how they want to monetize their passions or whatever aren't working anymore because they're outdated and they're old and they're not taking into consideration the times that we're living in, right? And then, finally, like, what is that new paradigm? Well, I also have been talking about selling transformation versus information, which I think that, what we are seeing in this AI and in just the information age is that information's free. And so if you're just out there trying to sell information or what you know or knowledge, you're going to come up against a problem. That's not what's moving people anymore because they can get it for free. So, we have to have a new paradigm, which is how to come up with what we want to sell that is not just sort of selling our knowledge or what we know,
Yeah.
but how are we selling that to people in a way that's actually going to benefit them and help them to create outcomes with that information, knowledge, expertise, all of that amazing stuff that we've all amassed over the years. We can't just sell the information. We actually
Yep.
have to sell people on why our information, the lens that we can see it through, how we teach, how we share, how we view the world, how that's going to help our specific clients get the outcomes that they're looking for right now. And why are
I
we different?
Stacey, I love this so much. And I want to peel a couple pieces, like two kind of key things you're saying here. And it just couldn't be more timely, right? To have this conversation right now even though, yes, you've been talking about it for a long time,
Yeah.
it's such a relevant thing. The first is to offer everyone, let's do that collective breath of, does it feel different, right? This is the brain science piece, right? Does it feel different in your body, to your nervous system, to your mind when you say, I'm always evolving. And so whatever's going on in the world, whether it's market changes, political stuff, artificial intelligence, new technology, that it's always just an invitation for evolution, which is supposed to happen anyway and is a good thing versus, oh my gosh, the world's being taken over by robots and like I'm
Right.
being, written out of the narrative of humanity, right? Which is where like that catastrophizing, doom scrolling stuff comes from. So I really love this, that it's not something to be feared. It's something to be excited about and interested in and curious. I keep thinking of that line, some have, I think it's from Twelfth Night. I think it's Shakespeare. Maybe he stole it from someone probably, but it's the idea of, some have, greatness, sometimes we have greatness handed to us and sometimes greatness is thrust upon us. And so sometimes evolution comes from within. We just feel like you said, Stacey, there's something doesn't feel as lit up, exciting, passionate. Your academy is Passionate and Prosperous Academy. Your, Passionate and Prosperous live events that you do in New York City. Like these are inner evolutionary
Yeah.
catalysts. And then sometimes it's like AI shows up or the market
Yeah.
changes or whatever, an election happens that has effects. And then evolution is called forth what feels like an external stimuli. But I love the idea of the reframe. We said new paradigm today, that like
Yeah.
this is a good thing. And also it's always happening all the time anyway. Even if there wasn't, we can get very fixated. If the pandemic this, if AI
Right.
this, it's like, no, there's like there's a Buddhist temple in my area in Chicago that I used to drive by all the time. And they had a giant banner. I mean, like the size of a city block. And I would drive by it every day taking my son to school and back. And it said, accept constant change.
Yeah.
And it was just the Buddhist being like, yeah, welcome to Tuesday.
Yeah.
like whatever it is. So I love that you're giving us a new paradigm around this to be more excited, to celebrate this is happening anyway. We weren't meant to come in and work at a factory and then clock out in 60 years and get a watch and go sit on the beach. That's not
Yeah.
the age we're in.
Yes.
So, Stacey, now that we can be excited about evolution, right? And not see it as I have to reinvent or it's because something's broken or I'm being replaced by a machine. What is the first step? Like, what is something everybody listening, if we say, oh, I like this idea, like what Stacey's talking about here, evolution, what's the first thing when we do feel internally or externally called to evolve?
So, I think it depends, first of all, on what context you want to evolve in,
Sure.
right? I mean, like, obviously, like I always say, it's so funny. I was talking to ChatGPT this morning, actually. And, because I'm working on some copy and whatever. And I was saying, like, sometimes I feel like, saying life and business feels so sort of cliche or generic. But then on the other hand, it is really what I feel because, I personally feel like your business, if you're an entrepreneur, right, or if you're trying to do your own thing, your business and your life are not really separate. And ideally, your business should feel like an extension of your life and should feel like it's funding like the life that you want to be living, right? And so we kind of need to know both things together. So, step one, if what we're talking about here is like an evolution in our work, in our thought leadership, in our, how we make money, and I'm literally creating a new framework right now for this that I'll be teaching at my live event in October. But, I think that the first thing that we have to ask ourselves is, well, what is calling me? What is making me think or feel that it's time for some sort of evolution or change? And we have to look at like what we're currently doing, and we have to be real about what I think there's a lot of fear around creating something new because you've worked really hard to get where you are now and you have something that's already going on and hopefully it's worked for you to some degree or whatever. And I think that when we think about that evolution, well, this is the thing. I think reinvention makes you feel like you have to toss that, right? And evolution is about going, okay, I need to still keep doing this while
Mm,
I now create this next new thing. And so I
yeah.
think step one of evolution is to ask yourself, why do you want to create this new thing? What is making you think that it is time for something new? And we need to be able to answer that question. And we need to be able to answer what is the why or the result that we're looking for, right? Because I
Mm,
think that people create new things or try to, but they haven't reverse engineered it and
right.
ask themselves, what do I want out of this for my business?
Mhm.
And here's the really important part, and B, for my audience slash
Yes.
clients, right?
Yes.
Because if what we're doing is something that we want to ultimately have it monetize in some way, like if we want this new evolution to include, well, I need to make money, all right? And this is like what drove my beginning of my coaching business, was because I was talking to all of these yoga students of mine, right? I owned a yoga studio and I was this teacher of transformation and evolution and change. And people would come to me, and the number one thing holding people back from doing something new or believing
Mhm.
that they could make a change or believing that they could survive an external pressure that had been put on them, it always came back to money. It
Mm,
always came back to, I can't afford it, or what am I going to do? I have to make money. Everyone has to make money. No one that I work with is just like a self-made millionaire or sitting on like a trust fund. And so I think that we do have to think about, in this evolution, how does this relate to revenue generating? And therefore, what do you think people are going to want to pay you for? Right. So
mhm.
this is the stuff we have to think about first when it comes to our evolution. What do I have? Like, what's the reason I want to create something new? And
Mhm.
is it free or is it paid? And if
Mhm.
it's a paid offer, right? How am I going to take my genius, my expertise, like what I have that I believe I can give to other people, right? So, but what is my reason for creating something new? Is it to make money, or is it to create this next free thing? Because I do believe, and I mean, there's so much we can talk about, Sarah.
Yeah.
As you know, I believe that we need to create our own stages and our own opportunities. So
Yep.
while we can get in front of other people, like I'm so grateful to be on the rise today and share have you share me with your audience. I'm also a huge believer in creating your own work that attracts your ideal, people. So whether that's something simple like a workshop, or, or a virtual thing, or it's a live event like you do, like I do, or if it's a
Yeah.
podcast like this, or if it's writing a book like you help people do, what is it when you want to do this next evolution?
Hmm.
If it's something creative like that, we still always have to be able to tie it with our ultimate outcome, which is like,
Yes.
are we doing this because we want it to be how we get to use our talent, passion, gifts, and skills to make money? And if
Yeah.
that's what we want to do, we have to first start with like, why do I feel I need to create something new? What do I want to get out of it? And what do I want my audience or my hopefully future clients for this new thing to get out of it? And we have to
Yes.
start with that, because when we just create something because we're just like, oh, I want to do something new and different, but we haven't thought about it from that reverse engineering
Yeah.
like structure, we come up against a problem, because then we start feeling like we're putting all this time, energy, effort, maybe even money into something, and we haven't really thought about how that aligns with our, like, what we're capable of doing in our business, what our business model is, and what we ultimately want, and at the end of the day, how we want to make money. And I just think that that's really important, because I don't think you or I really work with people who are just doing this only for like the wanting to help transform the world and humanity. I think people are also wanting to do the work that they're doing because they'd like to
Yes.
get paid for it.
You bet. And this is a passion here, at Thought Leader Media and everything that there is. And I mean, our whole new club is monetizing your book, right?
Right.
Because it's wonderful to say I want to inspire people. And none of you are here for a bucket list only, right? And
Right.
that's the difference between Stacey, who you coach, and who I coach, than other, it's wonderful. There's nothing wrong if something's a bucket list, but that's different. And there's a different need in the evolution process if you are doing something pure, as people call a passion project. Well, I'm about, like, I love, your paradigm, Stacey, of passion and profitable, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's have it be both. And I think of the definition of dharma, which I love, right? Where your passion meets the world's need. Right. And what you're talking about is you want to make sure, what's the passion, what's got me all lit up about something new, and then where does the Venn diagram where that overlaps with the world, as in your world of your people that you serve, where it's their need. And when you put those two things together, you've got that rocket fuel, right? You've got that
Yeah.
excitement. So then it's about, okay, then how, and you help people with then how to make it the profitable piece, right? And I know you've got
Yeah.
a gift for everyone to help them do that when you're doing your thing, whether it's a workshop, a masterclass, a webinar, when you're
Yeah.
bringing people to you, which we'll share with everybody. Stacey's generously going to share this fantastic resource for really converting on your webinars or your
Yeah.
live presentations. But Stacey, so we talked about a mistake here. The number one mistake you see people make, if I'm hearing correctly, is that people get excited about something new and they don't ask these two vital questions. Number one, why does it feel like it's time? So
Yeah.
everyone, ask yourself this. Let's just do this in real time. Think of something you feel inspired to create that's new. Or maybe you feel like it's necessary to create something new because something you're doing isn't working. Okay. Like,
I think
I've
that's usually
had
more
both.
why. Like I
Right.
think it's the feeling of I've plateaued, things aren't converting the way that they were or that I want them to. I'm not getting. It's usually because people are not getting what they want or what they need
Right.
ultimately, right?
So that's
That's
your first one.
the
That's your
catalyst.
first. That's your catalyst. And then number two, how does the new thing I'm thinking about doing really serve my ideal person? What is it that they're walking around praying? Could someone just solve this for me? Could someone help me with this? Could someone, and like that again, where your passion meets the world's need, which is what Stacey's prompting us through her questions to ask, is what will give you you'll be on the track for a profitable evolution. I feel
Yeah.
like that's what really, Stacey, you're
I want
bringing
to add
us.
one thing in there, because I think that
Please.
what it also is really tapping into what is your zone of genius, And because
Hmm.
I think that's really what it also comes down to is we look around and we see all of these people doing all of these things and we start to feel like, should I be doing that? Do I need to do that? But
Mm.
right. And I think that like one thing that I see people not doing is really just taking a minute and revisiting why, like, what is your thing? Like, what are you best at doing? What are you, and what is your best way of expressing yourself, right? Like, I know all these people who are like, I should start a podcast. And I'm like, not unless that's like a medium that really lights you up to like get on the mic and talk, right? Like, or same thing with like writing a book, or same thing with like starting a blog. Like, my clients come to me and they're like, I feel like I have to do this or do that or do this or do that or make a new offer, do a membership, do this, do that. And I'm like, let's slow your roll because like we need to actually figure out like, is that thing going to be the best way for you to deliver your
Mm.
genius? And then we need to match that with the desires of your audience and ideal client. So it needs to be a match. And I
Yeah.
think that's really an important thing, a piece in there is like really going like, what is your zone of genius and what's your best way of
Hmm.
being visible? Like, what's your best way of communicating in the world? And let's go all in on that. Like, we need to go all in on that. We cannot like go all in on something that doesn't light you up, that doesn't use your best gifts and skills, that doesn't really showcase what makes you amazing at what you do. And so we have to lean into that. You have to make evolution your opportunity to become more and more who you're truly meant to be in the world and trust that that is going to be the thing that's going to attract the right people and how you're going to make money.
So I'm loving now we have a three-part Venn
Yeah.
diagram. And you all that train with me know I love a Venn
A good
diagram.
Venn
Like my
diagram.
favorite.
Yep.
So we've got your passion, right?
Yep.
And then we have how that serves the people that you're here to serve, how it gets them a result that they want, right? Not that you think they need or that
Totally.
they actually want, right? Those of you that train with me know I teach interest forums. I teach focus group marketing first before you launch anything, right? If you haven't learned our strategies on that, then go find the episodes that we've done, right? But it's important. And now we have our third circle, and I like threes in the Venn diagram. Your zone of genius. Is this the thing that's really your medium? And how do we know? Okay, and I'm going to bring in the brain science. All right. We're going to give this a little juice with the brain science and ask a meta question. Meta questions activate certain parts of our brain, including the prefrontal cortex, so that we can check that we're on board with this. So it's what lets me know that I'm passionate about something first, so you can feel, do you get excitement in your chest? Do
Yeah.
you feel, ooh, what happens? Start paying attention this week, inspired by Stacey's interview. I'm inviting everybody to pay attention. How do you know? What lets you know you're passionate? And then what lets you know that something's in your zone of genius?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you myself, when someone suggests a strategy, a medium, like as in, is it a podcast, a book, a talk, something, I can feel viscerally, somatically, energetically, and emotionally when something hits that my zone of genius and my passion. And then my job is to go out and find 5 or 10 people who are the kind of people I imagine would want this thing, and ask them tell them what I'm thinking and share that and say, give me the honest feedback. Would you invest in this? At how much? For how long? In what ways? Right?
Yep.
And then when you do put something in the world, you've hit Stacey's 3 circles in the Venn diagram, and you've also vetted your offer, whether it's a ticket to something, a program, a course, a book. It doesn't matter. It can be anything at all. So I love this. I'm excited that we've come up with a new Venn diagram. If you missed the
Yeah.
beginning of the episode, go back and listen to the framework. What do thought leaders need to do? Stacey just modeled it. She modeled it for you right here, right? Bold assertion, challenge or evaluate the status quo or the way things are being done to find where people aren't getting served, where there's gaps and holes, and then offer a new paradigm. So this is really exciting. So Stacey, I'm going to recap by saying, right, we're going to be excited about evolution
Yeah.
instead of feeling like we have to reinvent and throw out everything we've done and ignore who we are and try to figure out being someone we're not. Nope. We're going to evolve based on these three criteria: our passion, what people are looking for, and our zone of genius. This
Yeah.
is so fire. Now, when someone's figured all that out, you have a gift for everybody where they're going to be able then to sell that thing, right? Because we
Yeah.
talked
So,
about it.
yeah, I'm really big on creating your own opportunities to give people an experience, especially if what you know you do in the world, how you help people feels kind of like in that esoteric category. Like those of us who really are coaches and who serve people in this sort of personal growth and development space or in the transformational space, I like to just use as an umbrella. I think that we find that it's so hard to describe what we do. It's so hard to, tell people how we can help them. And so my number one way of selling, and it's yours too, Sara, is to bring people in a room with me and create an experience of the transformation so that the person goes, "Oh, I totally understand how Stacey could help me." And then they totally understand how or why they would join my program or work with me. And so I've been doing this since I started, right? And then I didn't even know, Sara, when I first was doing it, that actually there are all these like kind of coachy gurus out there who like teach people how to make webinars and whatever. I was just doing what I knew from like all my years of being a performer and being a yoga teacher and having people in a room. So I teach people now how to do that, how to create experiential, transformational workshops, webinars, events, the things that you need to do to have like people get in a room with you and not try to sell them something, but sell it to them in a way they don't even realize because it's selling itself because you're
Yes.
giving them the experience. And then they understand by the time you're done with them why they want it, why you're the person for them, and whether or not, this thing is what's next for them. So I'm giving you what I call my high converting, you could plug in whatever word: webinar, workshop, masterclass, challenge, event, but a high converting event structure. There's a 30-minute little workshop and it's accompanied by an actual PDF template. And I'm just giving you some of the frameworks that I teach for how to create your events that actually lead to people saying yes, as opposed to what many people have done before, either putting together an icky salesy event like that they doesn't feel in alignment for you, or teaching just a big juicy workshop, which is amazing, but
Yeah.
if it's not aligned strategically, if what you want is it for it to lead to someone saying yes to your program or whatever, it can also leave people like kind of going, "That was great," and then they
Yes.
leave and they don't buy your thing. So it's a very specific framework that I've created to make you feel like you're sharing your gifts and your value, and that you're being a heart-centered amazing leader to the people in the room, and also selling, so that
Yeah.
selling can feel really good, because you can't
Yeah.
make money as a transformational thought leader unless you're willing to sell something. And I think that heart-centered transformational people, that's where they really fall off, is they feel like they're scared to sell. And I'm like, no, let's like make selling amazing.
I know. And people are like, "That's so generous, Stacey." So everybody, we're going to get Stacey's resource to you. You'll have that in the show notes. You'll have that, Stacey. If you want to put the link here for the live audience, feel free.
I
Otherwise, we're
would
going to
have
send it
to be
out.
able to go copy and
Yes.
paste it, and I
Well, we're
can't.
going to
So
go, we're going to send it out to everybody. We'll send it to your email. We'll put it in the show
yes.
notes. You can get it with everything. So how exciting is this? Way to kick us off for an amazing week. We have half the year left. If you're listening to this
Yeah.
when the show is airing, we've got 6 months to make this the most epic year, not only of your life, your contribution, your legacy, but also of your revenue. And that's why I wanted Stacey to come on today and model for us what great thought leadership is, in terms of we're playing with our Brian Miller framework that I just really enjoy and think is
Yeah.
cool. And Stacey and I know Brian, so it's fun, just
Totally.
to use his work. And also, Stacey, thank you so much for coming in and inspiring us around evolution, not reinvention. Might open up something for people that are feeling overwhelmed right now. And certainly, whether you like whatever word you like, you've got now this Venn diagram to play with. That's your homework this week. And then you're going to get Stacey's resource to be able to then sell the thing that you come up with after
Yeah.
you go through that Venn diagram and bring your passion together with your profit, which is what you specialize in, Stacey. So thank you so much for taking the time for being with us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you for having me, and thanks for everyone that showed up in the room. It's always so nice to have a couple of actual people in the room.
Right? It's
Yeah.
special. This is the secret. I know everybody on the social platform are like, how do I get in the Zoom room? You all know how to get on. Send
Yeah.
us an email, care@saraconnell.com, and we'll get you a pass to get in the Zoom room. So thank you, Stacey. Let's all give Stacey some love. Those of us here, so happy. And everybody, as we transition into having an epic week, let's take a deep breath. Just take in everything that you heard into your heart and just really lean into your support this week. Okay. Lean into what you received here today. Lean in. Those of you joining us Wednesday, we've got the Monetize Your Book Club very first session for our founding members. This is the first membership of its kind. It's the only place right now that's using brain science and strategy to help amazing thought leaders who are thinking of doing a book or already have a book get a return on investment. If you do what we're sharing with you in the Monetize Your Book Club, right, what you're going to do is you're going to be monetizing your book before it's even published. And those of you that have your book out, you begin to implement immediately. So make sure that you have your membership set up to join us on Wednesday. We'll share that link again. And October, I know some of you were private messaging. October registration is open. We have less than 30 seats left in the room. It will sell out. So if you do not have your ticket tomorrow, Wednesday is the final day for early registration. So you can come for half the regular investment rate in October 7th through 9th in New York City for women starting movements. It's going to be epic. It's going to be insane. You're going to get to meet some incredible industry insiders, and you're going to transform and do about a year's worth of work in 3 days in a fun way. All right. So really excited to see you all. Make sure you get your ticket by Wednesday. Otherwise, then, it goes up. So you want to get the early registration rate. Have an amazing week, everybody. You're doing awesome. And let's really focus this week on what Stacey shared. Let's evolve with joy instead of reinvent in fear. All right. See you next time. Bye, everybody. I am beyond honored that you choose to spend your precious time here. And I'm guessing that, like me, you believe everyone deserves to rise. So to keep this content absolutely free to absolutely everyone, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to the show and share this episode with a friend. We'll be the rising tide that raises all ships. Thank you, thank you, thank you.